Okay. We live. What's up, Elijah? Mic check. Mic check. Yeah, okay. It's working. Mic check. Hope everybody's doing okay. Hey, Elijah. Hey, what's up, Q? What's up, Cuban Links? I meant to write you back. I've been cleaning all morning, dude, and my place is still a mess. I've been cleaning literally all morning. Well, about half and half. I was cleaning the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day, I was playing my Nintendo Switch. I just fired it back up because I went on a. I said I would never do this, but I finally did. I went on a Temu shopping spree like crazy. And one thing I found on Temu was that repair kit to fix the if you know video games, you know the Nintendo Switch had a bad Joy-Con drift problem. And mine had it for it's been easily 6-7 years now. It's probably more than that. Yeah, I just never fixed it. So I finally went on. I was like, I'm gonna try Temu. So I never tried it because what made me finally take the dive into Temu? Because I told my son's mother I would never do Temu either. But what made me do it was was the logic of just the sheer reality. You know what I mean? Like that's really what did it. The reality of why I finally folded and participated in low-wage slavery is because of this. It's fucked up, but it's true. Okay, it got to the point where I could look up the same thing to buy it here, and like the main normal stores are just gonna buy the same shit and just mark the price up like 2 and 3 times at minimum and sell you the same shit. It's like, okay, like now I'm just wasting time. I might as well just go ahead and buy it from Temu now because the same thing at the real store is literally the same thing, and they're charging, at least 2 and 3 times, on the low end for the same thing. So that's what made me finally go on Temu. So I've been on a Temu shopping spree. And so since my Joy-Cons finally work as they're supposed to work, I can finally play Mario Galaxy because I really like Mario. I really enjoy Mario Galaxy. But it got to a point where I really needed like precision controls, and the Joy-Con drift made it impossible to get through. It was like some level. I have this memory. This had to have been 4 years ago when that 3D All Stars came out, because I bought that. I have the real game of that, but I also pirated it just because it was easier to pirate it. But I do have the real version of it. I have a memory. It was like some level where it was like walls, and you really had to it was one of those shitty Mario levels where like as soon as you fell off, you just immediately died. There was no bargaining with you kind of thing. And I just couldn't progress because the Joy-Con drift was just so bad. So like and I'm sure there's probably other games that I really enjoyed, but my Joy-Con was just so bad. So I just couldn't. It was impossible. It was just severely unenjoyable to play it like that. So now I'm going back to the Nintendo Switch and playing. Since I fixed it, I took it apart and I'll show you. I bought this. This is a Nintendo Switch repair kit, a Joy-Con repair kit, and this is the thing you got to put in the what do you call it, the joystick, because I already put the other two in. They came in 2 packs like that, and yeah, it's fine. It works so far. It's working. It's as it should be, So I'm happy with it. I bought some fake chains off Temu. Jesus Christ. I've never been a jewelry guy. But yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah. Like, I just bought a bunch of just little random shit. Just a bunch of just little random. There was like a couple bigger things I bought, but just mostly just a bunch of just little, like a case for my iPad, because my iPad case was just old and just horrible looking. I bought phone cases, just a bunch of just little random shit. I bought a new wallet that to hold a passport because me being overseas, you usually have to carry a passport with you everywhere. Once you leave like most Western countries, they expect you to have your passport on you all the time. That's one weird thing when I talk to people. Like, I still tell my friends this here. I say, yeah, back in the U.S., your driving is such a norm in America. Well, at least it was when I was younger. Driving was so much of a norm that your driver's license was your ID. So I was speaking with two or three other people earlier this week, and I don't think they really understood. Like, yeah, we like in America, you can get an ID, but in America, your driver's license usually suffices for like at least when I was 10. This was 10 years ago. Last time I was there. Unless something's changed, your driver's license was like the form of ID. Like most people don't even own a passport, or even know where if they do, they don't know where it is in America. But yeah, Temu. I'm Team Temu. There was only a few things that I seen on Temu that I would be better off probably buying from a regular store here. One was an HDMI splitter, and another was like just a sports bag to carry carry shit to the gym. I don't like gyms like sparring gyms to carry shit to like sparring gyms. Probably just gonna to get a bag here and to get an HDMI splitter here would really be a better deal here. I'm not gonna get that on Temu, but many other things is a million times better on Temu to get. Sure. That shirt is that shirt is tough. I'm getting roasted. I'm getting roasted on my own live stream. Jesus Christ. But yeah, man, my son, he's getting bigger. He's he's finally getting to the point where he's all right with school, going to school, and and all that, and and I'm involved. All like I'm old. Like I try to stay as involved as I can with his school because I don't speak Czech well enough to just how they just start rattling off Czech, but I still try, and I'm still there. Like all the parents and all the kids and parents, like I get stories back that like when I show up, like all the kids run to my son and say, "Yeah, your dad's here." Like they know me like immediately. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not like fear or like anything weird. It's like a respect thing. So like I'm definitely well known up there. Like they know me. Um, that's a whole nother conversation, man. But yeah, like me being a dad is really kicking in. Uh, just teaching them stuff and you know leading by example. Because one thing, and here's the thing. There's one thing that I really wish that there's a few. I mean, you can always look back. Anybody can look back on their life and say like, I wish I had this. I wish I had that kind of thing. But another thing I wish that I kind of had was people around me who were genuinely practicing something, right? And then made it okay to fail. Because this I think this was probably more just a victim of the time period. Like back when I was a kid, I'll be 40. Back when I was a kid and a teenager, those were years where like I partially blame media a little bit because media always only showed people who were like perfect and great at things. So like for those of you who are 20, you probably have no memory of this. Well, of course you don't. But for those of you, I would say 35 and up, you guys remember those 90s movies, late 80s, those 80s and 90s movies where there was always somebody who was like, it was always focused on somebody who was like the chosen one, and they just, if they struggled, it wasn't for very long, and they just magically became great kind of thing. And I think these movies really set the tone for just humanity back then. So it was more of a mentality where like if you weren't good at something, you just got laughed out the building kind of thing. And that was it, right? That was just it. There was no working with you. They would just look at you, smirk and laugh and keep you would have to be lucky. Back when I was growing up, you would seriously have to be lucky, genuinely lucky, to stumble into a mentality of people and a culture of people who would genuinely be like, let me help you. You know what I'm saying? Like we all have to practice to get good at something. You would, if you were not lucky and found a mentality or culture who was like that, you were just surrounded around just what people would call now just complete, just toxic bullshit. Like there was nothing good that can come out of that unless you just ran away from home. You know what I mean? Like pretty much like Bruce Wayne when Christian Bale did Batman, and he just like fucking ran away from home and he became Batman. That's literally the only way you could become Batman fucking 25, 30 years ago. You had to just run away from home. Right? Because if people knew you were already typecasted into something, and that was it. Like there was no room for growth. So like to make up for that, with my son, I had to ramp it up from about. Well, it was a few reasons why I had to ramp it up. I had to ramp it up, but now more so because he's only gonna do what he sees me do, right? Like if he sees me do something, he's gonna do it. You know what I mean? So like I had to ramp it up in all these other areas, like from just on the logic. Like I can't expect my son to just be good, do good, be disciplined, practice something. If I'm not being good, doing something good, practicing something and discipline, if I'm not showing, if I'm not letting him see me do that, right? Because there's this old saying like, do as I say, not as I do. I think that's the dumbest fucking saying on the goddamn planet Earth. Because all that is just an escape route for a pathetic parent, in my opinion. Do as I say, not as I do. You know what I mean? Like, I think that is just a pathetic escape route. And I would even go as far to say, even in the Bible, they would say that would be a pathetic escape route. Because again, I went to Christian school the first 6 years of my life, and I've been listening to the Bible like here and there, just to listen to some lessons from the Bible, even though I don't agree with many. There's areas where I definitely don't think God is the right person for the job, but I do. But the lessons from the Bible are still. I've always said this: the lessons in the Bible are still great. You don't need another book or a movie or anything. Just have the Bible. In all honesty, but even in the Bible, it would go on about how, what was it? a person who just goes to church and listens to good things does not make them a good person. Like because they're not actually acting out good things. They're just listening and talking about good things. You see what I'm saying? It's not really in their heart to do that. Right. And this was the mentality that I grew up with. Like, and this is why like everybody back in Cincinnati, Ohio, they're all still doing the same shit. Nobody ever grew. Like, it's literally fact-based shit. Like, if you go back to my hometown or look up I would say at least at 90% of people I grew up with, look them up on Facebook, they're all doing the exact same shit. Or barely moved up a little bit, but they're still the same scared of the world mentality kind of thing. None of them, very few of them genuinely grew. I was just telling my child's mother about this. Because she gets real self-conscious because she didn't get any higher education, and this is where this is where I've developed a new awareness for what I want in a woman. Now I prefer a woman who had higher education, because if you get with a woman, if you have higher education, and if you have higher education and you get with somebody who didn't have higher education, that's always going to be a problem somewhere. It's always going to be a baseline issue in the relationship. If you're in an intimate relationship with somebody like that, and you had to stay and live with them and conduct life with them. Like a lot of time you're coming from two totally different perspectives, especially if you got like higher ed, like above a bachelor's. Like now that's just too big of a gap on perspectives in the world. Usually, not every single case, but in most cases. Um, um, but yeah, I was telling my child's mother was about education. Yeah, because she gets real self conscious about it to the point where it's just like super fucking awkward. Um, I forgot my train of thought where I was going with that. I completely forgot. I happy to hear you're settling well into fatherhood. Yeah, yeah. Oh, um, well, I can segue that education to another area. That perspective. Oh, yeah. Going back to the people I knew in high school. So, oh yeah. So a good friend of mine I grew up with. He is a director at university now. I remember we both failed the ninth grade at the same time. And we both ended up graduating on time. But we both failed the ninth grade. I remember that. Uh, for those of you outside the U.S. or to have a slightly different education system, ninth grade is like in the U.S. we have high school that's 4 years. It's usually from ninth grade to 12th grade. Ninth grade is your first year of high school. So I failed. We both failed the ninth grade. He ended up going off. So we both ended up with master's degrees in the world and this kind of thing, right? Now, every now and then we still talk because, like I said, we grew up together since kindergarten, and our mothers knew each other before we were born. So we're like if I say his name to my dad knows exactly, and it's vice versa. Like it's that kind of relationship. But anyway, um, what he said one time truly shocked me, and this was a big uh, veering off point. This is one of the first times I noticed that I had really I when I this was the first time I had really kind of seen that I think I truly escaped that Ohio mentality, right? He so he's got a beautiful house, beautiful cars. He's got kids now. He's been married with kids for a while. He looks If you see his life, he looks perfect. But we get to talking, and he tells me, because we grew up together. Anyway, he was running low on money at one point, even while working as a director at the university, right? And he said he's gonna have to pick up extra shifts at a factory as a side job, right? And that was when it hit me that's okay. That's when it hit me. Is when you're under stress, the first thing you think of is to go work at a factory. After you've just been a director at a university, your first thought is, I need to go drive Uber. I need to go work at a factory. Dude, no. No, I did everything I had to. I did everything in life. So look, okay, I'm not saying I wouldn't drive Uber or I wouldn't work at a factory. But what I'm trying to say is that would not be the first thought out my mind as soon as money went low. Okay, like I would have to be worn down pretty fucking bad to be like, let me go ahead and fill this application out at Uber real fast. Let me go ahead. Like it would. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, but it would be. I would have to be depleted pretty hard. And when I say pretty hard, to give an example, when COVID happened here, when COVID happened, the VA had completely fucked up my money, and I literally had virtually no income for about 2 or 3 years. And I was just living off what I had in the bank, right? And to be honest, I still had more than what most people have in savings. But for me, that was a big hit because I had nothing coming in for like about 2.5, 3 years. My son was just born. I'm 5,000 miles away from home. All right. You see how deep this, and I still was not thinking I need to go drive for Uber. It would have to get a lot harder before I'd be like because okay, now to explain this in a wider picture, I think it was because of my journey on how I went to college in the first place. I went to college in the first place essentially doing a Bruce Wayne, running away from home and living in homeless shelters. right? So when I lived in homeless shelters, like, I know what's waiting for me if I fuck up. I know what's there. See, I don't think a friend of mine, he doesn't really know what's there. I don't think most people, especially in developed countries, they don't really know what's waiting for them if and when they fuck up or the world fucks up. So they don't really plan accordingly and force things to work in life and everyday life. But I know what is waiting. I know what it's like to go to sleep in a big ass room just filled with grown men snoring and farting all night and smelling like it just smells awful in the room because I did that shit. I know what it's like to stand with a tray waiting in line wrapped around this indoor basketball court at this prison that they moved us in the homeless shelter to. I know it's like waiting in line with that tray to get some food. You know what I mean? Like so I know what's waiting for me. So like for me, like that gave me more drive to to either keep going up, or it gave me more steam in the engine to keep going harder. You see what I'm saying? Like it really like I know what's on the other side of that, on the other side of that mountain. Whereas like most people have just been told stories on what's on the other side of that mountain, or maybe watch a documentary on what's on the other side of the mountain. I know what's on the other side of that mountain. You see, I'm preparing on a whole different, I'm preparing on a whole different foundation. Again, I'm not saying it can't happen that I can end up working at Uber or factory, whatever, but I would have to be drained out pretty bad before that would happen. Pretty bad. Bro, my wife got into Uber the other day. Where driving, she was a driver. She was driving the senator. Okay. When I got back from Poland, I was telling some homies we got to travel Europe. They started airing me out. Some folks scared to change. Yeah, and yeah. Now I will say a bad part about my life is this. Is now I look around at 40, right? And and to be honest, my life is not normal. Okay, like my life is not normal. Most people at 40 are, I was thinking this earlier today. Most people around my age are clinging on, trapped in, or or hanging on to some job for survival. You know, any sense of change is just it, is just going to completely, like what you said, Cuban, like that change is just like becoming okay. I watched this dude. It was this black dude on Instagram. He was giving a speech in front of high schoolers, right? And he must have been like 35, or I think it was like 35. And he was saying like adulthood adulthood ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. And like, okay, like from my perspective of life, like my life, okay, the way I view the world as a playground. Now I'm not saying things can't get bad, I can't mess up, I can't make mistakes, I can't, or the world just snaps his fingers and fuck me up. But my perspective of the world is a sandbox. Okay, when I look at the world, I think, what can I do? What can I do with this? In a sense of Grand Theft Auto, right? A sandbox game. Like, I wonder if that'll work. You know what I mean? This speaker in front of, and I saved it. I forgot where I put it because I would have brought it up on the live stream. But I mean, he was on his third. He was older, and you could tell like he had grown to the position where he was afraid of life. He's not playing with life. He's afraid and surviving life. And this is the big difference between me and my child's mother, because she's right in that same boat. This is why we don't get along anymore, is because I make life look easy. Okay. I know this. But that's because I've optimized specific areas and seen realities within realities to be able to sniff shit out. Is in terms of getting back to comfort in life better. For example, there was another guy when I first came here. I came here with a bunch of Americans, and we went to go teach at this. We went to go learn how to teach at this school in Prague. I never forget him. His name, I say his first name because it's a common. His name was Zach, right? And Zach was one of the teachers. He was one of the working teachers. He was teaching us how to teach at the school. And when you seen Zach, you would assume, I told my dad this story too. You would assume Zach had his shit together. Okay. He had a professional, charismatic personality. He seemingly dressed well. I mean, he and then on top of it, he was just white and clean, so he already had that working in his favor on planet Earth, right? But you would assume, and he was a cool dude. I'm not saying he was any funny or anything like that. He was a cool dude. But when you seen it, you would, and I remember thinking like, he has his shit together, right? And so, like, I'm a survivor, and I'm good in the world. I'm not good in like a hood or small confined areas. I'm good with realities of the actual world on a higher level. Like, if you throw me in a hood, I'm not going to do very well at all. But if you throw me in the world, I'll run circles around most people who are good in little hoods and little sections of a city kind of thing. I'll run circles around. So when I came here, I remember because I had a car. I had met my ex-wife, and she had a big new house. So I was living with her, and I had a car. So in some kind of way, I was talking to Zach, and it came up that I had a car. And he said, and I remember he came up to me later and said, "Hey, I may need you, but I don't know yet." And I said, "Okay, yeah, that's cool, man. Just let me know if you need me, whatever. Just And I think we exchanged Facebook." And I didn't hear from him for like 2 or 3 months. And then he randomly wrote me asking if I could still help him with my car. And I said, "Yeah, sure, man. Just what's up?" And he needed to move. So he gave me his address, and I went out there, right? And when I went to his flat, that shit looked like something barely above a third world country. When you walked in there, it was, and it was like 7 or 8 of them in there. Well, maybe not 7 or 8, probably like 5 or 6. It was a lot of people living in this flat. Everything. Okay, those old old shitty flats that are usually shown in like Russia. It was like that. Like, the stereotype of like old, everything in the flat was just like dirty and just old. Nothing in there was new. And they were all living in there, right? Because he told me he would give me some beer as payment to help him move. And I went up there, man. Like, I remember, I found a girl. I bought a car. I'm living in a nice new house with a car in another country. And I go to him. He's sitting here working a job looking professional. Man, this dude is living like trash. Right? Like complete trash. Like CHRASH. Trash. Right? I'm like, oh my God. So he got his shit together. It wasn't a lot. I remember it wasn't a lot of shit. And he gave me this big case of beer. He gave me some good quality beer too. And on the drive, I can't remember where we were going, but I drove him somewhere, and he just starts breaking down to me in the car, going, "Oh, I'm going to have to move back to America, and I'm moving back into my parents' basement again." And, he was like, I don't know, maybe like 30 or something like that. He said, "Because it's just so hard in America for me, and blah, blah, blah. And if I move, like," and he was just getting real down about it, man. Like, he didn't have anything, right? Like, he was fucked up. And he did go back. He went back to America. We're still friends on Facebook. He's like, he ended up working in with his dad. I see, his dad died not long after that. But he's he pretty much got in his family business, but he's been back in the U.S. ever since. But what I'm trying to get at with that is that sense of survival and calling bullshit. Because when I was in that school, I remember. See, I don't get along with these kind of people because they're trying to throw on acts for other people to pretend like they're okay. So I remember when I went to the school to learn how to teach, I usually always never get along with like typical corporate working people, like average workers. I don't get along with like average people in workforces usually. I don't get along. The women, sometimes if the woman thinks she can get something out of me, if she thinks I want to fuck her, then that can work. But like in basic normal conversations, usually those people I don't get along with them because they're so busy trying to throw up a fake act that they're not acknowledging reality. I remember we were in the classroom one time, and I had Googled the average wages for teachers in Prague, right? And back then I said, look, like if you're going to make that amount of money, you will never be able to afford your own plane ticket out of here. And from then on, like none of them liked me. Well, no, let me take it back. One dude, if you watch and you met him, because I don't want to say your name, but we had you flow here. Well, you didn't fly. You're a country over. You came. We went to Starbucks and you met that guy. His name's Sebastian. He came here with, and I'm still cool with Sebastian now. But he was the only one. But Sebastian was a New York dude. He wasn't playing, so he wasn't playing bullshit too. You know what I mean? Sebastian could play bullshit if it could get him through. If it depended on something he wanted, he could play the bullshit and sell it well. But he knows reality. Sebastian knows reality. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, that. And of all those people, me and him are the only ones that I know of that continued on and never went back to the U.S. unless, we had to visit for some reason. We were the only ones who kept going, and it's always from my experiences, it's always okay. See, now I'm gonna single this out back to North America just to get my point across. The ones who tend to fail every time, once they, on international travel and type shit. And I hate to say this, but it's the American whites. Those are the ones who tend to fail or do extremely miserable unless they have some type of like family alliance once they get somewhere else or something like that. Unless they have something massively working. Those are the ones every time who fail horrifically because... And I'm not gonna make this a whole rant about like white privilege or anything like that because times have definitely changed for sure, and I'm ignorant to it. But from my experiences with it, white Americans tend to, unless they have a real edge to them, the only white Americans I've ever known that can successfully survive abroad is either one. It's gonna there's two different types of white Americans who can do it. One is going to be a white woman. A white woman. Now, the specific type of white woman that will survive, she has to be typically just an ugly to average looking white woman, but she knows how to play submissive, nice white woman very well. When she has to, she'll make it. But she also has to have a little bit of street smarts and that reality edge to her that she can get mad real quick, kind of like she's from, the country of Tennessee type shit. She can get mad real quick and get to talking like this, y'all, and those white women can make it. The only white American guys I know that can make it are the ones who get moved here because they got a job. I'm trying to narrow this down to like people who just flew here with nothing and they just had to make it work. Right? Usually the white guy has to be extremely desperate. I mean, he's super fucked up. I don't, in my experience, I don't know many white American males who can successfully just pick up, fly somewhere, and strictly survive off of their own wit and intelligence. I don't know. I personally don't know any. The women can, but the white men no, because they're too used to that American just kind of getting by on a that see, American white privilege doesn't necessarily work outside of North America. It works in their own cliques in America. Because they all get the talking what they're saying, like, oh, hey there, Rod. They get that they get the talking like, remember when Flanders met Canadian Flanders and they both just immediately hit it off like doodly diddly Atner. That's how they be doing it. And they be like, yep, you want a job? Okay, we'll hire you right now. But that privilege doesn't work because they get to walking around and expecting that outside of North America, and it don't. They might get it if they stick around expensive tourist spots, because if you stick around expensive tourist spots, like Czechs are just gonna want American money. The Polish are just gonna want. They're gonna want if you hang around if you hang around tourist spots, like they're going to be nice to you because they want your money. But like when it comes time to actually have to be intelligent and witty, yeah, like those are the first ones to get filtered out, man. Those are the first, because they just don't have it. They're used to being catered to. They're not used to catering anybody. But yeah. Scotty, there's nothing for me as a white guy outside of. I say it's gonna be hard. Like a good friend of mine, Brandon, he's a nurse, and I would never want him to travel here alone. If he told me he was traveling here, I would make sure that I would make sure that I would be with him. I would not feel comfortable, and I've known Brandon about 20 years now. It's almost 20 years now that I've known Brandon. And because I remember when his daughter was born, his first daughter was born. He's had 2 girls now. Because I remember when he first got with his wife. I remember because he was like 19 and she was like 16, but she was driving and he wasn't, and she would come pick us up in her Volkswagen that had a shitty muffler. It was a nice car, but the muffler was like fucked up. And but yeah, if Brandon wanted to travel, my first thought is do not travel alone. I'll meet you somewhere and at least walk you around a little bit first, because they're just gonna want your money, dude. Like it, and because then the sad part is like when you look up like the white American guys who travel, like they're only staying in expensive places. Like very few of them genuinely like go off, but then it's like, okay, there's always that percentage of person who just may have randomly gotten experience to fill them in, so they can mingle better. There's always that chance, but generally speaking, no, it usually no, it doesn't. It just doesn't work. That dynamic. Things could have changed recently. I don't know. Because like I said, times are moving on, and I know I'm aware that I'm ignorant to many things as time moved on. No argument for me as a white guy in Canada. I am extremely anti-passport. What's your gas prices over in Czech? I'm paying about $5.50 a gallon. I don't. I just drove to pick up my last Temu package, actually, because they're doing construction. Let me see. This might be too dark. You guys probably can't see. My place is a mess. I've been cleaning up like crazy and moving shit, and dusting shit. So hang on. Hope I don't lose y'all, because last time I was on a call, I was losing people. So you see that bridge? Hang on. Let me here, and it's going like down there. Well, they shut down one lane on both sides. Now, if you're in the U.S., specifically, I can speak about the U.S. In the U.S., our roads are usually filled with a ton of runoffs. So, like, if a car breaks down or something happens, like, you would still have 2 lanes to drive in. Well, In most of Czech Republic, they don't do that. You just have the street. There is no runoffs. So like if there's construction that has to be done, you're going to be narrowed down to one lane of traffic, which is a pain in the fucking ass to drive down. So I had to drive down there yesterday to pick up a package, my Temu package. But to answer your question, how much are you paying for gas? So they do it by the liter, and Jesus Christ, I think it's like 36 crowns per liter. So what's that per gallon? It's going to be about $5. Okay, when I first moved here, gas was around $5 a gallon. It's always more expensive in Europe, but it's usually, yeah, because they're doing it by liter per. But gas prices were like $5 10 years ago. Oh, Jesus Christ, $7 per gallon. Okay, so can you guys see that when I'm highlighting it? Yeah. Okay, so for this part, this is not true. Hang on. This is not true. As far as I can remember, I don't think it's ever been 40 Czech crowns per gallon. I don't remember seeing that. It's usually, I think the highest I may have ever seen is probably like 35, 40 Czech crowns. And 35 Czech crowns is about maybe $1.60 per liter. So it's not $7. This is not correct. Because there's a gas station. There's a gas station right down the street. There's a Shell literally down the street. I kind of want to like end the live stream and then start the live stream from my phone to walk down there and show you literally the gas prices. But that's gonna be too much work. Because there's a Shell down the street and there's a Lidl up the street that way that has a gas that sells gas. I'm fairly certain it's never been. This is not right. 40 crowns a gallon. It's not $7 per it's not $7 per gallon, but it's probably somewhere in $5 or $6 range. Like I said, it was $5 when I first moved here 10 years ago. And I was buying diesel for that BMW. Still looks daylight. We finally had daylight savings time, I think last weekend. Yeah. I know when I was driving there, I always found it weird how there's no shoulder. I think I saw on the Autobahns, though, not sure. Yeah, in Germany, as soon as you cross, because I think you were coming from Poland, but as soon as you cross Czech Republic into Germany, it's like going from Czech Republic to America. Like the quality build of the streets and highways. I mean, it's still that European, like, hints and traces, but the highway in Germany is immediately like it's like stepping in a time warp and is going back to America. Like they actually have runoffs again. It actually looks like they put a lot of money into the highways, and it's like quality built barriers and shit again. Like, and I'm talking at like literally the second because you have to drive through the mountains to go from Czech Republic to Dresden. Because I used to do it. Well, I was driving from Česká Lípa, but it would be the same route. Ultimately, the same highway would meet. And like literally the second you cross over into Germany, like if you're paying attention to the roads, you wouldn't even have to see a welcome sign. You would just know, like, this is next level shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. Oh, Lidl, that they was doing that Snoop Dogg commercial. Slavic language is just as difficult, as challenging as Latin languages. Oh, no, Slavic languages are well, okay. To properly assess that, the reason why Slavic languages are going to be much harder is one, because unless you've had any history with Slavic languages, you are literally learning from scratch. Well, okay, not exactly. I would say like Japanese or Chinese, you will be learning that entirely from scratch because that's just a completely foreign alphabet on top of just completely foreign words. Now, Slavic languages, many of them will still use, A, B, C, D kind of thing. But the words are just either the words are entirely different or if they're similar, the speed and the cadence of the word, the inflections of how you pronounce it will be so foreign to you that I can speak to you in a sentence, and most of the words would literally be pretty much the same. If I were to write the word down, you would know what I was saying. But if I were to say it, you just couldn't follow it unless you've had practice with Slavic languages. Because I think because Cuban links, because your girl, she would know like situation. I think conversatsi. I think that's one. Sometimes I just kind of just bullshit and make it up if I feel like it'll work. But conversatsi, maybe. I can't think of it anymore now. But it'll be like anomaly. I think anomaly is the same, but they pronounce it slightly different. Um, but yeah, like Slavic language. If you have no history with Slavic languages, to just hear it and speak it, like it's just gonna be it's far. I would say Slavic languages are much more difficult. Um, but I don't know. It just depends on the person, honestly. Because if you're just, it depends on how you hear and what you personally are listening to. Because I've heard all different types of stories. Like I've heard stories of for example, I knew one guy, he could speak Czech fluently, but he couldn't understand it. So you would have to translate. He would speak to somebody, they would reply, and you would have to like try to translate what they said in Czech back to him in English because he was from somewhere in Africa. He was an African dude, but he could speak Czech fluently, but he couldn't understand any of it. And I've never met anybody else like him. But he was serious. He couldn't understand it. Uh, some people can read it and write it well, a foreign language. Like I've had students who can write perfectly, and they're not using AI because I would have assumed they would have been using AI. They were not using it. They can write and read perfectly, but when it comes to speaking, they just either they get nervous or they have to like arrange the thought first, and then it's this awkward pause of silence, and then they can just in English. It just depends on that person. Like for example, when I went to Scotland, I always tell this story. When I went to Scotland, um, now I can understand. Even when I watch like reels where they make fun of Scottish people for being unintelligible, like you just can't understand it. Like now I can hear it and I can understand it just as easily as I can understand a British person speak now. But when I first came over here, I had no firsthand experience with foreign languages. So when I went to Scotland with my ex-wife, who was Czech, by the way, she had to translate what the Scottish person was saying to me because I just could maybe understand at best 20% of what he was saying. I just I couldn't follow it. And so she would have to translate his Scottish. My Czech ex-wife had to translate his Scottish English to me. But the Scottish dude could understand me. That was the weird part. Like when I spoke out loud, he could clearly understand me, but then he would reply and I'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. What? Like, but now I've my ear. I've been here long enough and just heard so many different types of languages and tried to speak other different types of languages. Now I can like listen for every single individual part and not listen to the more songified version, like for example, I think I told this story a while back. This isn't exactly what it's like, but it's almost like if someone were to like just read the words of a song. Like I used to do this with my spouse, right? I used to pretend I was just like talking to her, but I'd actually be saying a song, and I would say something like By the taste of your lips, I'm on the way. I'm addicted to you because you know that you're toxic, right? Now, if I just say it, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? But if I say, by the taste of your lips, I'm on the way, I'm addicted to you, don't you know that you're tired? There's that Britney Spears song, right? Now you immediately, if you know the song, of course, now you immediately know even the little words I may even get completely wrong or just don't even exist. I just filled it in. You immediately know what the overall message I'm getting across. And you here's the thing, you compute this without even knowing you compute that, right? But it takes a while to like kind of like rewind in your brain and then actually analyze the parts that you're actually listening to and why you're listening to that part, kind of thing. It's a really complicated subject. I think that'd be a good course to just like create for like a university to like really analyze speech patterns like that, and to get people to focus like what are you actually listening to. Oh, bro, don't get me started. My wife started on a Scottish accent, but I actually quite enjoy. I don't remember her accent. I remember why I spoke with her, but I don't remember her accent much. I don't remember her natural accent. I can't remember. I remember because she was sitting across from me and we were sitting next to each other. I remember her talking, but I'm just drawing a complete blank on her voice and how she sounded. I'm just drawing a complete blank right now, man. But she started with a Scottish. Yo, AD, glad you're back. I'm going to the gym. So I'm gonna catch up with the rest of the line. Yo, cool. How have you both, man? Yeah. How you know the language so well but can't understand it? That's as. Yeah, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know. And then Czech is not a language. Well, he had like 2 or 3 kids, I think, with a Czech woman. But I know I think his wife was like African or two. I don't know. I can't remember. But he was a weird case. You don't see that very often. Um, and then Czech, these Slavic languages. Well, every language has this at some point. But the way the grammar is, it's just so like it's really one of those things like most people just will never learn fluently if they didn't grow up with it. Like it's just one of those things because the grammar just changes so much depending on like what you're talking about, who's in the sentence, whether it's a guy or a girl. For example, like if you want to say like I'm probably gonna fuck this up, but if you want to say like I was with Wendell, you would say Bilsim Sevindalum, because my name is no longer Wendell. You have the end. Okay, if something is with something, at least in Czech, you have to like if something is with something, it will usually end with em. So even if it's a name, if your name is like Alex, I'm assuming Alexem, you don't, because with is usually s like but if you don't know that, you would never even pick up that somebody even used a sound when they're talking. But the Svindlum, because then they pronounce the W like a V, so they would say Vindalum. Or they'll say Vindala. I don't know. I still don't understand why they call me Vindala sometimes. It sounds ridiculous. But it's part of their grammar, man. I don't know. And the other weird part is that like I don't know how Polish is, but Czech language, like you can't. So in English, you could literally listen to the radio or read poems and learn English from just listening to the radio. You could take sentences from songs on the radio and use them in everyday speech. Well, maybe not rap songs, but like you know what I mean, like pretty much any other format other than rap, you could take that sentence and use it in an everyday sentence, and it would make perfect sense. Generally speaking, it says something like work, 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 work. So you couldn't do that; it would be ridiculous. But You know what I mean? But now in Czech language, you can't even take like what you would think would be a basic sentence. It just doesn't work in everyday normal language. So like, because I tried to learn by listening to Czech music, and my ex-wife told me, yeah, you can't. It doesn't work like that. And over here, because the only Czech song I ever really liked, well, I still like it actually. It's called "Attentat" by Christoph. I was just the way the music video is and the lyrics, like, because I had to translate the lyrics. It's called "Attentat" by Christoph. That's the only song of his that I even like. I was trying to learn Czech through that because I still remember, like, it's like "Prosím zasni svět." So zasni is turn off, and svět is earth or the world. But then svetla is lamp. It's weird. Svetla is light, I think, light or lamp. But you can't say like zasni microwave. You can't say zasni television. Like I don't. I'm pretty sure that doesn't work like in how Czechs actually speak. But so it's just, and then on top of that, if you have to rhyme words in a song, like it's just virtually impossible to make a good sounding rhyming song. Like some people have done it, but most of it just sounds awful. So they like if they have to rhyme, they usually just sing in English or like it just doesn't make sense in Czech. Yeah. But yeah. But yeah, back to life, man. Like just seeing my son, because he'll be 4, and there's just other hurdles. There's so many hurdles that, and here's the thing is, you never know. But he may just naturally figure out how to jump over some of these hurdles. But another big issue, pretty much in most of the rest of the world, from what I can gather, which is, I'm not saying I'm 100% wise on this, but what I'm putting together is this. America is pretty much the only country where you can that's genuinely built on rebuilding and restructuring and being allowed to fail, right? Like now, I know I started off with the whole people laughed at you thing earlier, but what I'm getting at as an adult, so like the concept of community colleges is like pretty much foreign outside of America. Like if you didn't go to university at 18, 19, 20, and from what I'm able to gather, you just don't have a chance if you didn't do it in those years. And it's specifically here. Like there is no such thing as going back to school at 30 unless you already completed school and you want to do something else. But you know, that mentality of being able of having the option there, and this is where I think many of Americans lose a lot of respect in the world and aren't even aware of it because it's the situation. Like if an American is complaining because they poor or life is hard and this and that, like no, like if you're in America, I would say at least 8 times out of 10 you have plenty of options. You're just not using them because you just think you're too good for it or you're afraid of it or whatever. But like you have the option, you just don't want to do it. And I think this is a major part of like international reasons, like the thing, topics that just never get brought up because when you see, okay, like when anybody sees something happening in another country, they think, oh, like I have all my countries, good and bad points, and then we just bring that good or bad thing into my country. Like no, these are completely different mentalities. So like I would always bring up earlier, like when it comes to the context of like free healthcare, see like what Americans see the rest of the world, when the rest of the world talks about free healthcare, Americans look at that and think to themselves, oh wow, you mean to tell me there's countries with our quality of technology, customer service, customer care, there's countries that have all that and they get it for free? Like, wow, we are so America sucks. They're not realizing no, like those countries are usually paying a lot more in taxes. Their work culture, they don't have too many work laws, so they work in 12 and 16-hour days easily. All right. All right. They may get some vacation here or there, but they paying ridiculous rates. This just comes through taxes and various other laws underneath that, right? So Americans, like, they'll hear these, or like, for example, I'm sure everybody's because Europe gets away with this on how like lunches in European schools are so they're healthy for the kids and this and that. Now this is one area where I'm glad that I was in some way I was let's just say I was proven wrong because the younger generation, I've noticed this lately, the younger generations know. He is even here. They know. I stumbled on this Czech YouTuber, and he was maybe like 19 or 20, and he was talking about Czech Republic, and he was saying how like, and he was glorifying American cafeterias because now, but what he was saying lines up with the people who are in my age bracket, and we talk about this stuff. They said that the food was when the kids go to school here, the food is usually so bad that the parents have to cook homemade food so their kid will have food at school to eat because the kid don't want to eat the food at school. But Americans will get this image of like fresh fruits and fresh vegetables on a tray in Italy, and this is how Italians eat lunch all day. And my child's mother, she grew up in Italy. She went to school all her life in Italy. And she said that's complete bullshit. When I showed her a picture of it, she said, yeah, no, that's not all the kind of lunch they had. Now, she said that they do get they wouldn't have all you can eat like meat and stuff like that, but they can go back and get more French fries if they wanted it. Fried food. So like I think a big issue that I think is starting to resolve itself is that automatic assuming that like Japanese culture is just like godlike and does nothing wrong, and 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 Europeans are all walking around perfectly healthy, and and this and that, like like I think all of that's starting to resolve it, specifically through the younger generations. And I was telling my dad this a few days ago. Um, I said, I told him, I said, you know what? I think my time is up now because the younger kids, the younger generations, even here, are more intelligent than people in my generation and older because like they can be. Let's correct it. They can be. I think what definitely was sped it up was the internet, but then things like let's use Temu for example. Let's use another context. Let's say like people in my age bracket, right? When we look back in history books, we just see a horse and buggy. That's all we see, and we look back and say, "Damn, like y'all was messed up. You had to ride a horse and buggy everywhere. You didn't have air conditioning. What'd you do when it get hot?" like we don't see, so we don't have that close relation with the class differences, with the families who a family of like 10 who were like poor and eating water for dinner every night. We don't have that association, so we just see all of them were poor because they were riding in a horse and buggy. That's all we see. Black, white don't matter. All we see is inferior technology. We have better shit now. Let's keep going. Now, there's always going to be these little, there's always going to be groups that kind of held on to the class, over the years. But generally speaking, the younger generations, they when they're born, they'll have less and less automatic memory of that. Nowadays, with the 20-year-olds, now with the younger generations, now, like, the race thing isn't so much the problem. I think what became the next big problem in racial situation, it's not necessarily it's nationalist issues. Because social media. I have a conspiracy theory that social media is pushing against any country that could become a potential threat to North America. or wherever your social media is created at. If another country, it's just feeding propaganda at this point. Um, because have you like if you go on if you look up anything about India. Now I've never been to India, but if you look up anything about India, the immediate first thing is that people are very. I remember I was looking at something on Instagram where this woman had married an Indian guy, right? And I ended up reading the comments, and they were just immediately just making fun of her for marrying an Indian guy because he smelled and he stinks and this and that, right? Where does that courage to just immediately assume that, like, if you're talking, if you're seeing one woman who married, it was a white woman who married an Indian guy, to just automatically, you see what I'm saying, be on some like, oh, he must have smelled this and that, blah blah blah. Like, that is strictly social media. That's strictly so. Like the first thought that I had when I think, okay, personally, when I think of an Indian dude, is from personal experiences. It's not like now, of course, some of that's. I'm not going to lie and say some of it hasn't in some way influenced my level of thinking on some level, because if you just see or hear stories about India, which India, it very well may smell or stink or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I never been. But social media is definitely forming mine. So if it's anything about Russia or in any country that could potentially gain traction, social media, it just goes rampant with that shit. We're just like trashing them entirely, 100%. So even when it comes to with me being in Czech Republic, actually one of my best friends here is a Russian dude, and throughout my entire life, well, like, because I told you guys a story when I lived in Atlanta, and the Russian family there just took me in like I was their own. Like, I could walk in their house. They never locked the doors. If I just wanted something to eat, I could just go in there and go in their house. And they say, oh, hey. If they could speak English, they would say, oh, hey. If they didn't, they would just, wave or something like that. I was family with them. My personal experiences the Russian women can be fucked up, but like the Russian dudes, they don't do that, man. Like, they're not the Russian dudes. Like, the Russian women can be fucked up. I've never known of an adult Russian woman who wasn't in some way awkward as fuck, either just like extremely hypergamous or just like almost like a Russian American, like overly loud and happy kind of thing. Like, it's always something a little weird about it. but what I'm trying to say is, from my personal experiences, in reality, the Russians have always treated me better than the Czechs. Being in Czech Republic, every Russian person I've ever known here, Russian or Kazakhstan or from Uzbekistan, those are always the nicer ones. In fact, when I take my son to school, there's this pastry shop, right? And I always say, now he knows, so he just runs when we get there, and because I think Uzbek, like Salam, Hayir, Rahmat is thank you, Ha is yes, like ha ha ha, like ha is yes, and I'm pretty sure it's Uzbek. So Hayir is bye, Salam is hello, Rahmat is thank you. And I forget no now. I can't think of what no is, because I never have to say no. But they teach me. I asked them. I said, I want to learn your language, so you don't have, because we end up speaking Czech because their English isn't that good, so we end up speaking Czech. So I said, no, I want to learn your language, and so they give my son free pastries from time to time, and like, they know us, and they're much nicer, and they've been far nicer than me than any Czech person, or I'm saying not any, but most Czech people, or most Polish people, or even most of the Europeans. They've been nicer. Russian, Kazakh. I remember me and the Russian friend of mine, we was walking in Prague Castle. That was my first time ever going after like 10 years of being here. He wanted to go, so I went with him, and we ended up meeting these girls and completely hit it off with them like there. You know what I mean? Because the one girl, I think she was from, I can't remember. It's so many of those stands. I can't remember. But her skin looked white. She wasn't brown or she wasn't brown or anything. And I remember she was into doing sculpture. She was in art school. Now in America, if you say art school, it's I'm not gonna say it's an immediate joke, but the assumption is that yeah, this is a waste of time. Now, when she showed me her artwork that she had done, she's doing facial sculptures. I mean, it was perfection. It and the weird and now I don't know, maybe I'm misinterpreting Czech mentality, but maybe it's me. Maybe the problem's me. But I don't know if the Czechs are just that weary of strangers, or if it's a pride thing at first, or what. But so for example, when I go sparring, there was this Russian dude in there. He's Russian dude. He said he's going to Boston to study sound engineering or something like that. But I never spar with him. I don't even know how because I've never even seen him in the sparring room. But he was there. He was in the locker room. And there was another dude. I think he was from Kazakhstan because he was a little brown, and he looked a little Asian kind of look to him. But his English, both their English was great. And it was like hanging out with Americans. It was like we were just walking and talking together. Like immediately it was just that, right? So we were talking about, me being from America, and how yeah, and we had a good laugh outside because I told him the story how when you're walking with Czechs, a lot of times they won't even want to talk to you until they hear your American accent or they see your passport, and it's hey, let's go for lunch, let's be friends now. They immediately flip. But Russians, it goes the other way. It's once they hear the Russian accent, or one of those, or once they hear that in their accent that they can speak Russian fluently, they immediately just it goes down. Whereas for African American, it goes up. but they know, they know, but they know. Now, in my experiences, this is only how I perceive it. This is only how I perceive it, is that the Russians don't tend to have any of that snobby shit in them. They don't have it. And I don't even feel I'm sure there's some that will eventually. I'll probably meet some, but overall in my history of knowing Russian people from the States to Europe, I can't remember any that genuinely had that some type of snobby shit in them. Now in Czech, now again, maybe my perception is just off, but the Czech culture, yeah, now these guys and girls, they'll fuck around and throw that snobby shit out, especially if they think they're better than you and richer than you, and you're from a poor country. In my opinion, like I've always Czech Republic's in this weird spot, it's exactly in the middle. So their whole thing is they'll talk shit about Ukraine because Ukraine is poor and lesser than them, but then feel like victims when they go to the UK. Right? Be they shouldn't treat us like this. And the shitty part about Czech mentality is not every single one, but it's definitely a common thing where they have no patience for you if you're lower than them, but they expect the world of patience from people who are higher than them. And I think that's really the core reason why it's so difficult for them to grow as a people. And it comes from their history because they were in the middle, and they couldn't protect themselves, so they had to side with the winner all the time, and some kind of way hold on to their core. But yeah, that snobby side will definitely show up a lot more, for sure. But yeah, back to my son, the hard part that I have to think about with him is, well, now I don't think race will be as big as an issue as I originally thought it would be, especially once I get him. Now, another area that I found out with Czechs too is that if you want any type of intelligent conversation or any well-roundedness, you have to go with Czechs who are doing something higher. You cannot mingle with like average workers, average people. You can't do it. It's mostly going to be a waste of time because they'll be battling too much inferiority issues and all. Because they're cold. It's the mentality. You have to go with doctors, lawyers, people who are genuinely practicing something that's hard to master. Right? Those are the only areas. You go in these areas, you'll have a great time with those people. But if you go out just a regular world, just regular bars, that's when you can mess around and reach a lot of frustration. But back to myself, I don't think the race issue would be so will be as big of an issue as I thought it would be, because I think the younger generations have really sped up a lot. But what I think will continuously be an issue, because it's just baked into a lot of European mentality, is you got one shot to make it, and if you don't, you're done for life. So I think the biggest issue with him is to make sure that he learns follow through, like how he learns how to follow through with something. If you start something, you finish it. You don't run away because it's uncomfortable. You don't just expect North America to just to see. I think a lot of this goes back into the history. They just expect America to just pay for them and protect them. To hell with finances. To hell with figuring out how to protect our own selves. To hell with preparing for the future. America should do it. And if America doesn't do it, then they're mean. If Donald Trump does something, well, he's mean. We'll say you're mean. Meanwhile, y'all ain't doing shit to protect your goddamn self. You all up. I was on the tram yesterday, or the day before, was it yesterday? And I don't know where these guys from. They was talking about Trump did something with nuclear weapons and we don't need nuclear and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yo, what the fuck is your country doing? Like, why are you up in Donald? Why is the world? I think Donald Trump in this context is the best president ever in mankind, because that man single-handedly has people around the world sniffing his nutsack 24/7. Right, in different languages. No other president in human history has been able to do that. Why? And get this, while at the same time, those people's countries can't figure out their own shit. They go, well, Donald Trump's mean. He should. Here's the thing about politics. See, whenever this topic comes up, I was talking to somebody, and they said they don't think Donald Trump is a smart man. They don't think he's this. They don't think he's that, and blah blah blah. Right? And my immediate response is usually generally in the same boat. Is one, that's not even my field. Okay. I don't have the same level of informants that he has. I'm not even anywhere even. I don't work in the field or anything. I've read some books on it, but reading books and reality are two completely different things in many situations, especially when you're talking about large populations of people. And then the second part I go to, I was talking to an old friend of mine, because now he does like Donald Trump and he's mad about this and that, about politics and government. I said, okay, look, could you figure out how to put toilet paper in 10 different McDonald's? Most people can't even do that. So why is it that the world thinks they know what to do with countries? You see what I'm saying? Like motherfucker, you don't even have the intelligence to figure out how to keep McDonald's stocked with toilet paper. So like talking about, I mean, good like okay. When it comes to situations like when whatever happened with Venezuela and Trump, like that shit should have happened a long time ago. Now, in my opinion, I was in Argentina. I wasn't in Venezuela, but I knew I worked sitting next to a dude in Venezuela one time, matter of fact. But I'm not going to use that as my fighting argument. But just from basic ban, I want to say for a while you couldn't even fly into Venezuela. Was it Venezuela because it got so bad that they were banned from the flying? Like you couldn't catch a flight directly into the country because they got too bad. because their currency just went to shit. Right? I, now, I would say, I don't know what Donald Trump did down there, but whatever he did, he should have done it. Because South America needs to sign that shit over. They need to just say, fuck it. We don't know what we doing. Look, we just gonna co-sign this to North America, bro, because we don't know what we doing. Okay, period. We just don't got it. They need to just co-sign that shit the fuck over. All right, because it's clear they don't got it. All right. With that type of climate, that's a okay. I will put South America in the same boat as something like Portugal, or like any coastal European region. I will put them in this with that type of climate to grow shit and do shit. Well, Europe's even worse because Europe was in the slave trade and still and horrifically squandered that shit. The fact that you had a 200-year head start on free labor and you still using slave labor from Africa and y'all and they still can't get their shit all on top. Just sign it over, bro. Just look, just do us all a favor and give it up because you don't got it. All right. Now, America, and see, this is what I was saying earlier. Like the U.S. gets a lot of this random hate because the U.S. genuinely actually succeeded off of slave labor, whereas like pretty virtually the rest of the world was still like it still struggles with that shit with the aftermath. I mean, severely struggles with it. America had a 250-year head start. And so did Europe. And China's been doing no. I think the oldest civilization was it Korea? Is it South Korea or North Korea that they had the longest period of slavery? I mean, it was like by far. It was like not even close. Man. That's why interesting. The Russians I met are snobby, but it's only the whores and gold diggers that act like that in my experience. Okay, now to be honest with you, okay, now I do remember there was one Russian girl in a brothel, but she was cool. Maybe I just had great experiences. She was cool. She was. I didn't feel any type of any. She was like I felt like I could have been cool with her in real life. Um. Now, if you go, maybe if it's like a in call hooker or something like that, and then maybe those I would assume those could be worse. I've never done in call or anything, or traveled to a woman like that, in that type of form of prostitution. So I don't know, but I would assume that would that could make things worse. Um, Latvian escorts say in the ads, no Indians. Jesus Christ. You say, what are they doing? They're doing a bad job because living in is getting crazy expensive. Did you know there's a huge community of Polish Brazilians in Brazil? No, no. I do know there's a lot of Japanese. I want to say in Brazil or Argentina. And there's a Japanese, I want to say it's Japanese community in Jamaica, I want to say. I can't remember. Oh, yeah. But yeah, now back to my son, man. Like with him, like I really like I just hope that if he gets anything from me, it's the ability to understand that you can always rebuild and fix something. Like, and I really think that this is really a North American. I think this is really a North American mentality. I would say mostly. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how Canada is. I can't speak on Canada, but that mentality of like, okay, everybody in this chat room right now, right? Let's say if y'all was 35 years old in North America, you it it's not it's not it, it, it it's not impossible for you to go to community college. It's not impossible for you to go to university somewhere. It's not impossible for you to go to trade school, get a CDL. And the only reason why you don't do it is because you don't want to do it. This is a personal reason. It's not an opportunity reason. I mean, when I was in Argentina, I was first we went to Buenos Aires, right? And of course, Buenos Aires isn't bad because it's the main city. But usually, how you tell the condition of a country is when you travel 20 feet outside that capital city. Now, now, if the general structure is still intact, then you got a relatively stable country. But when that quality drops off, when you leave 20 feet outside that capital city, yeah, that is all the proof you need to know that they need to sign that shit over to somebody fast, right? I remember when we left when we left that capital city, and we went to some hotel, and these motherfuckers were still on dirt roads. They were still on dirt roads out here. Is it they live like that? And I remember I remember the woman, she came in to change the bed. I mean, you could just see like the look in her eye and look in her face, like that was like a step up for her to get a job like that. And you get to looking around. See, when you get to these cities, right? And you get to looking around and see that, look, there's no warehouses, no factories. What are these people doing for work? How are they surviving? There's nothing here but just little shops and, you know what I mean? They ain't making nothing. You'd be like, whoo. So, needless to say, there's no university or college in sight. There's nothing there. You'd be like, oh my God. I remember that was the first time it came to my awareness that, like, yo, if you in America, you ain't got no excuse. You have no excuse. You have zero excuse. If there is a university, because me and my dad talk about, because my dad grew up poor, right? And we talk about this. So I didn't grow up poor. He raised me. He knows. But I call him out on this stuff. And I tell him this. I say, look, if you're in North America, you have no excuse. Period. Because I've seen decent poverty. Not extreme poverty, but I've seen decent levels of poverty. And, my dad, he's from the hood. So, and it's that thing where, like, see, American poor people like to make poor people sound cool and, like, brag about it, kind of thing. Because they know deep down it was a hobby. It wasn't a forced on them. I mean, well, it was forced on them, but it was more of a hobby because there was a way out. They just didn't want to go do it. And I remember we were talking. I said, okay, in downtown Cincinnati, no matter where you are in Cincinnati, within 20 minutes, a bus could have taken you to the front steps of any college or university in the area, right? And he got real quiet and said, yeah. Right? The option was there. You see, it's there. Now you go now back to that small town village, whatever in Argentina. No, bro. When I was in Ukraine, I seen the buses out there. I am not getting on that bus. I seen the bus in Kiev. Man, this bus looked like something from Fallout. Like, seriously. I would never touch. I wouldn't even trust that bus to start up, and they transport motherfuckers in that motherfucker. Like, if you are in America, if you are in a Western country, I would say I can specifically speak for North America. You have no excuse, none. Okay, you have no. Let me correct myself. You have no excuse in the ability to train yourself in something. Because there's people on earth who have no options to train themselves in. Did you know in other countries, motherfuckers go to school seriously to be a tour guide? They go to college for that shit, to be a tour guide. It's a degree program to be a tour guide. And this is where me and my child's mother, we fall out, man, because I will go to any school and learn anything. If it's there, and if there's an option, and see, this is where me and my dad, we don't get along with it. Because I told him I told my dad I have no patience for my brother. Because he's a fucking idiot. I have no patience for him. He's there. He has tons of things he can do, but he knows how to get up and drink alcohol and smoke weed. I have no patience for him at all. I don't talk to him. Period. And to this day, he knows if I go back to the U.S., my brother knows he's not allowed to get in my car. He knows. If I'm the driver, he's not allowed to get in the car if I'm driving. I may ride somewhere with him, but it'd have to be something serious. But he knows. I got no patience for that. And I grew up in the suburbs, right? But see, since I've actually seen people without options, not people who had options, but they just wanted to be cool. But I've seen people who genuinely do not have. I do this for them. I do this with the milk, with no milk. But I do this for them. Every day, I be tired, man. I be so tired sometimes, right? And this is why I don't like my child's mother either. I be so tired. I be real tired too, man. I'm tired now. My body is always sore. And I ride down this escalator, right? Because they're real long in Prague to go to the underground. You be on there for about 5 minutes and shit, just standing there listening to about 3 songs before you reach the bottom of that motherfucker on Apple Music. And I look up, and there's this picture of this disabled girl. I mean, like, she's like fucked up, dude. And she's looking at the camera, and she's just smiling, right? She's smiling. I mean, she's just fucked up. Like, she's probably never walked before a day in her life. She might be dead now. I don't know. But you can look at her and tell, like, this girl can't do anything. And the reason why I drag my 40-year-old body down to get my ass whooped in sparring is because I do it for her, because she can't do it. That's what makes me get the fuck up and keep going. I do it for a mixture for people like her in that picture, in that photograph of me going down the going down the escalators. I do it for my son, so I could teach him something from what I learned after getting my ass whooped in sparring 3 times a week for about 2 hours. I spar with this one dude. That motherfucker, he hit and kicked hard. And I wanted to call it off, but I sparred with him for 30 minutes. And my whole right side was bruised. And then, because about 2 weeks later, another friend of mine, he spars there too. And he said, and we was talking. He said, "Yeah, I sparred with him too, man. He whooped my ass." He said, and we had literally he was showing me the injuries. We had the exact same injuries. But I think he called it off because he said he just couldn't do it. I will spar with Mike Tyson. I tell people all the time, I don't care. I'll spar with anybody. It's more data for me. But I really should have called that shit off. But I just stayed in there, and I went with that motherfucker for about 30 minutes. Of course, there was like a break here or there, but I stayed with him for 30 minutes, man. But I do this shit. I do this for them. I do it for. Oh, I got another great story. I got a great story. My brother's kids don't like their dad because he's always drunk and this and that, right? My niece got a full ride scholarship to college, right? And for about 2 days after I talked to her on the phone, I would just tear up every time I think about her, because I had pretty much given up on her and her brother because their father is my brother, and their mom was not a lot better than him. So I'm just thinking there's just no chance for them. But she got her shit together. My niece, she got her act together, and she told me. So I said, I remember I asked her. I said, what made you go to college? What made you decide to go to What made you decide to do? She goes, Uncle Wendell, um, it was a few things. It was one. Well, she said she wants to beat me in education. She said, Uncle Wendell, I'm going to beat you. So I'm gonna get my doctorates. I'm coming for you and all stuff like that. But she said it was hearing stories of me. And then, but she said the big one was she had found a mentor in high school or something like that. No. She said the start of it was she was watching TV when she was maybe like 12 or 13 years old, and she had seen this woman on TV who just she spoke proper English. She was well dressed and she had her shit together. She was confident, and she said that she knew that she wanted to be like that. She didn't want to be like her mom or her dad. She wanted to be tight. You know what I mean? And so I said, so I asked her what kind of friends did she have? How did she stay on that track? She said that when she went to high school, her friends were not super focused on college, but she knew that she said she was either going to go to college or become a police officer. But I could tell by her voice that she was never going to just fall and work in like, Walmart or something like she was going balls to the wall or nothing. And she said she knew it when she was like 13, 14. But she said what kept her in that positive thinking mentality that, like, things are possible in the world. Like, you don't have to work at Kroger's or Walmart or Thriftway, these kind of, grocery stores. She said her friends were not focused in college, but they were always involved in school activities. So she was always, working with the school, doing something with the school, like in not like sports, but just like, working as maybe like forming pep rallies or something like that. She was always doing something. She wasn't just sitting around. She wasn't thinking. Wasn't thinking about alcohol. She wasn't thinking about any of that. And she got a full ride scholarship to university. She was telling me about her dorms and the food up there and what she could do with $50 up there. Like, and she sounded like she got her head on right, man. She really like she really does. You never know what's going to happen, but by the way she's talking, because she's like 20 now. By the way she's talking, you see, some people on earth will blame their pinky as to why they couldn't fill out a job application. And then other people will lose both arms and fill out 15 job applications an hour. They'll fill out with their feet. They'll call somebody to come fill it out for them. Even if she were to get pregnant by a knucklehead or something like that, that's not gonna stop her. She's gonna do something. Being average is not in her sights at all. I mean, I'm not saying it can't happen, but it is not in her sights at all. She's not even thinking in that realm of maybe I should do factory work. That ain't even possible. I mean, that's not in her range of thinking right now. It could happen, but it's not in her range. That's why I'm a fan of the Paralympics, man. And this is why I don't like my child's mother or my brother. A lot of my family in the U.S. because when we get on topics like this, like, they're the people who complain about their pinky or why they couldn't fill out a job, fill out an application to do anything. And this is where I don't get along with them at all. I don't talk to them. A lot of them. because it's always an excuse. If they just had $5 more, if they just if the sun just could have stayed out for 2 more minutes, and no, I don't keep that shit around me, man. I live in Canada. You live in Canada. Okay, so Canada does have the same mentality. Yeah, so yeah, yeah. You can always the core thing is not losing that ability to try. 100%. Get just get up. Just keep because like okay like when I told you I was sparring with that dude who just hit hard as fuck. I mean like even when he was like kicking me soft, man, that shit just hurt so bad. Like and one time I remember he got me good one time. I was seeing double for like at least a minute. I told my dad a story. I was seeing double for like, and it felt like my head was like this for like, and I was seeing just like double the whole time. I just, but the reason why I'll go pretty far without quitting is because once you start quitting or making some kind of excuse, then that shit'll snowball. First, I called that off. The next, first it's I called it off because I wasn't comfortable. The next thing you know, it's easier to convince yourself to be like, I'll just stay in a little longer this day and let's search for any reason to validate it. Then it's like, oh yeah, I hurt my knee a little bit while I was cycling. I think I think I won't do this. And that shit's gotta watch that shit, man. You gotta watch that. I was so rattled by him because at this gym I go to 3 different ones every week. And I was so rattled by him that I would like no joke. I was nervous to go back, right? And I was like forcing myself to walk in there, and if he was in there, I was gonna point to him and say, "Yeah, we're going again," knowing I was gonna get my ass whooped, right? But he didn't. He wasn't there. He didn't come again. He wasn't there that week. But I would if he was there. I was going to point him out and say we're going again. Motherfucker hit like a fucking train and didn't even try. Some people are just like that, man. Some people can just hit and kick and throw hard as fuck, and with it seemingly like not even trying. And other people, they look like they can do it and they can't do shit, and you can just body them in a corner as long as you want and everything in between. Because actually, before him, the weird part was before him, I was sparring with a guy, but we didn't go that long, and he looked like he was gonna be tough. I mean, like he had the look, like the muscles everywhere and all this, but he could he couldn't do anything. He literally just couldn't do anything. So he was easy. He got to a point where he was even scared to just even throw a punch. Like he just couldn't do anything. And then the next dude, he didn't look as muscular. He was about the same height as me. I'm not tall, but he was definitely like wider. He had more weight on him, but he wasn't fat or anything. And that dude beat my ass for 30 minutes. There was another dude. I haven't seen him for a while. He's a Ukrainian dude. 'Cause they be from all over the place, man. He was a Ukrainian dude. Now, when we was doing drill, now his thing is that dude can hit hard, but he can't kick. Like his feet are just so clumsy and clunky, right? So I remember, and so he was the first one. I mean, like he would just throw a punch, and it would just look like something like this, but it just felt like a fucking like weight was just coming at you every time, like. So we was just doing drills, just warming up on each other. I'm like, oh my god, I'm not gonna survive this. And then we started sparring. He couldn't. I mean, like the time he even laid a hit on me was because I just maybe got a little overconfident, just to let him get an opening on me, kind of thing. But like he had no movement at all. So I remember later that day, I think I asked him. I said, "Man, you hit pretty hard." And the little English he does know, he said, "Yeah, it's genetics." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, my dad was a boxer and my grandfather was a boxer." I'm like, Jesus, that explains it. This motherfucker hit hard. Some people just, whew. Oh, thanks, Cuban Links. The pinky analogy. Bow easy. Lil Bow Wow. Bow easy or bow easy. What's that be? I've got a good girl to go for some kinky. She got a hotel booked with her for one night. Should I let it? Yeah, I got a good girl to go. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just having a job, especially dump truck job, and having to work with whatever injuries the past weekend from playing basketball or whatever it taught me. You just got to get up and go do it. Yeah, yeah, get up and go. Just don't build that habit of if you can help it. Now, of course, like if you got like a broken leg, I wouldn't say get up and go, go kickboxing with a completely broken leg. Like at some point, you have to heal. But yeah, just get, and then see these are areas where me and my child's mother don't get along because like she just don't like she grew up in a family like that of people who just relied on their emotions too much, and this kind of thing. And most men who grew up with men around them know the emotions got very little to do with it. Emotions can be dealt with later. She grew up like that, man, and I don't mean her any harm. I don't mean her, but I told her very clearly, like if it comes to it, I will drive you to the homeless shelter. I will Google a homeless shelter for you. You're not coming back here. If it comes to that, I will drive. I will pick you up and I'll take you to a homeless shelter because her mind ain't right. At least right now, it ain't right at all. Her brain ain't right. Yeah, which is sad. And I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't get pick that up from her. You never know. Because because okay, another thing, I'm gonna let y'all go in a minute. I think it was an Instagram because I only open up Instagram when I'm taking a shit, and it was this black dude. Somebody approached this black dude on the street, and he goes, and they ask him, and he said, what do you regret? And he goes, I regret not going to college. He said because I'm 32 now, and I can't afford nothing. Right? 'Cause he's working, but he doesn't have any education. And he said what he regrets is his mom telling him that he needed to go to college when he was younger. Now, I do understand that, but now as a parent and as somebody who did go to college and seen, all different types of people to walk into college because I worked in education. And I'm still working in some form of education. So I've been working in education for total around maybe 10 to 15 years now and dealt with all different types of people. As a parent, you you must, if anybody in here is a parent, okay, here's the thing. I always knew this, but I never really truly felt it and experienced it until I became a parent. I always knew it was this though, but there wasn't an intimate relationship with the knowledge. As a parent, you have to set the example. Don't just tell people they should go be a doctor. Okay, like with my son, right? I was just talking to my dad. I was telling my dad, yeah, I was telling my dad it's time I think it's about time to train my son, how to at least kickbox a little bit. So I was on Temu and I bought him some gloves and I bought the pads for him to hit my hands, right? Because what happened was when I called my dad, he had shit on himself, right? And I said, because I could smell it. Well, I was talking to my dad on the video on the WhatsApp. And I said, yeah, because when I got home, I wanted to make sure he seen me hit the heavy bag. Because if he sees me do it, then he'll just want to come and do it, right? So then, and that's what happened. He seen me, do drills of kicking drills and some little bullshit combination drills, and then he came over mimicking me, right? But he doesn't, he of course doesn't know how to kick. Nobody knows how to kick, the first time. Everybody does horrible. So he wanted me to like hold his legs and like make him do it, to do what I was doing on the heavy bag, and we were laughing about it, this kind of thing, right? But I was so caught up with like as soon as we got home, he of course he takes off his coat and all this shit like that, puts it up. I come in, turn the TV on, get some food at least ready, and then I made sure to get on the heavy bag for a while to get him to see me on the heavy bag. So I completely forgot to take his diaper off because it's a long way home, and I don't want him peeing on himself while it's cold outside. So I put a diaper on him on the way home on the train, and we got to walk a bit and all that. So I completely forgot, and he shit on himself because he knew he had a diaper on, right? Because I was so caught up with making them, getting them used to seeing me. But to set an example. So his favorite toy, actually. So his favorite toy now is actually the stethoscope, and I'll show you a picture of him holding it. So this is his favorite toy now, is a stethoscope. Because most kids are usually terrified of these, when they go to the doctor's office. I know I was. So we were laying in bed, we were like practicing on each other. Like, because I first tried to get him to use this maybe like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and he was just too afraid of anything that looked like this. Like, he would just scream immediately. But now he'll go over, like, he's sitting over there with like in his ears like this, and like, touching it. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. Here it is. There's him playing with it by himself. So, but then he came up to me and was like, and was like holding it because he wanted me to like put it under my shirt. I don't know if he can actually hear it or not because I don't know. But then he wanted me to put it on and like put it under his shirt, and and listen for him to do that. So this is his favorite toy now. This is a real. It's a cheap stethoscope, but it is real. I got this, and I don't think this is quite time for him. I think he's still not old enough for this. But this is a suture kit. I may go ahead and try, but just really watching with this and go really slow because you got to sew it, and it's a sharp needle in there. There's a sharp needle. I think this is. I haven't even opened it up. So I got this for him. I got it off Temu. A suture kit. So to like sew like the suture like different. It simulates human skin. But I think I may go ahead and try it and just go really slow with him. Like, make sure he goes really, and just really watch him because he could stab himself with it. Because I was thinking about getting also like those models, like models of, let me see if I can find it real fast. Like models of like, like anything, like, but it's gonna be. But I want like the physical models that you can actually pull and just like stack them, sit them on the table so he can see it. Because one thing I remember when I did my degree in biotech, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. I remember when I did my degree in biotech, the number one, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. The spinal. I was thinking about getting it because I personally always wanted this. And it's only like $20. I always wanted. I always wanted this, mostly because I have scoliosis. But just get a bunch of these things. There was a brain one too, and just get these and just lay and just like keep them around the house. Just keep them around the house so he could just see it and just casually look at it. He don't even realize he don't even know what he's looking at. Because one thing that I remember when I was doing biotech is you you could tell the people in any science courses, the people who they grew up with their family doing that versus the ones who didn't. Because the ones who grew up with that, they would just automatically just be able to figure out shit like immediately. But then like for people like me, like we were coming in completely from scratch. I couldn't even think a step ahead because I had no experience with any of this stuff. So I remember my biotech teacher, um, her name was Susan, and her dad was legit one of those Sherlock Holmes kind of guys, right? And he would go and seriously like collect like horse hair from a circus that was like on the floor and take it home and like analyze it and take notes and keep it in a storage. Like he would like she said their basement was always filled with just like samples, all types of samples from anything and everywhere. So she had grown up around people who genuinely knew how to work a microscope. They knew all the tools. They knew the steps to do it. So by the time she hit college, it was second nature to her. So she was my biotech teacher. And in our class, you can tell the ones who grew up like that because they would just know, And like I said, and I came from a background of people who just said to go to college, and this is going back to what I was saying about the black dude on the street who got approached, and he said that his mother said that he should have gone to college. See, in reality, that was the mother. In reality, at that point, that's the mother's fault because she should have set the example of going to college for him. Okay. Because just telling someone they need to go to college, just telling someone they need to go study the brain, just telling somebody they need to go do that is bullshit. Okay. Okay. Just telling somebody to do something is the cheapest, pathetic way to get out of being afraid of your own ignorance. Just expecting them to figure it out, and that is the cheapest pathetic way of hiding from your own, of running and hiding from your own fear and ignorance. If you want them to do this or anywhere near anything of what you're trying to do, then you have to make sure you set that example for them. They have to make sure they watch you do this. They watch you try. If you fail, then you fail and you get back up for them. Don't just expect your child or expect somebody to just figure something out. Every household that I've ever known while working in education in and out, the only time I've ever heard of that work, there's one guy, he's actually a Czech dude, and he was using me to learn English to pass an interview in Austria for accounting. And we talked about his life story. He said that both of his parents were working like they were working dead end jobs, and he knew it, and it got to a point where they sent him to live with his grandma. And when he lived with his grandma, from day one, his grandma said, "You going to university." Now,
She said it with the intent of there was no other way, there was no other option. That's the only way that can work. Is if that person is so strongly believe that this is what you're going to do, kind of thing. Like there is no other option. You're going to university, period. So you better figure it out. That's the only way it works. If it's this whole, don't you want to go to college? What do you want to do? Is it like no, I'll tell you, go to school and be a doctor, be a lawyer. You could do anything. That's a coward. Just saying that. At the core, a coward says that. In that context. But yeah, so back to my son. I'm gonna buy a bunch of this shit and just leave it. Just put it on the nightstand here. There, it's just gonna be sprinkled around. He's already got access to technology. You know, anything from computers to keyboard right here, my guitar, my ukulele, microscopes in another room. I'll get my telescope fixed this week actually. He's always on these gymnast rings. Can you guys see the gymnast rings back there? He's always on those. Let me see if I can do. God, I want to fuck myself. I'm gonna see if I could do the leg lift thing. It's been so long. I'm probably gonna fuck my shit up. Can you guys see me? So. Am I straight? I can't see. I'm too far away. Were my legs straight? I was too far. I couldn't see myself. But he has to see me do it. That way now he knows that it's possible. But if I just say, hey, baby, go over there and do that. And do it for 5 minutes. You know, that's pathetic. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think about guys like you and Patrice O'Neal being able to talk about red pill on how to handle women in relationships as opposed to fresh and fit types that can't keep a woman? Well, okay, to be honest, all this is just luck, really, in the sense of like getting popular. I'm not popular, but in the sense of like Patrice O'Neal versus like fresh and fit. I mean, I don't know much about the fresh and fit guys. I really don't. I don't know. I remember the one guy. He went on that whole that black rant, which reminded me of Tyler from high school. Remember that? I always remember him when I hear people like that. But I don't know much about them in the context of like women. To answer your question, I don't know anything about them. If you're saying that they can't keep a woman, I don't know. Okay, so for example, the reason why, okay, I've always had some type of girlfriend. The thing is, like, I just don't consider myself in a relationship. You know, it's like Patrice O'Neal thing. Like, I've been in a relationship for 2 weeks. She thinks we've been in a relationship for 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, I don't, like, I don't think like that. But I think what keeps me like that is my personality, and then the fact that I always grow. So like the most disgusting thing to me is stagnation. Like if a person stagnates entirely, that's what turns me off. Like for example, I was just talking with a friend of mine. He called when my son fell asleep 2 days ago. And he was telling me that he went back to it was the manager at the brothel, and we've been friends ever since. I always tell this story because this electricity is in his name. It's been in his name for like 5 years now. And he said he went back to the brothel, and he said my favorite girl, she's still there. I said, Jesus, she's still there? He goes, yeah, she's cool. She's just like she used to be. And I said, dude, like I haven't been there in 5 years, and she was like 37, 38 back then. So she's like 42, 43 now. Like, that's sad. You know what I mean? Like, and so he starts going on a rant. He goes, yeah, man, like, he starts going on a rant saying how the girls usually, they usually don't, they'll say a story like they're gonna get out and go get a real job, but they never do because the money's just too good. Because like the thought that working in a brothel you can make in an hour what you'll make in like 3 days of standing on your feet all day at an electronics store or something like that. Like most girls just can't. They mentally can't downgrade to that earning. So they'll rather just die in a brothel and then hope some dude just like wants to marry them and something like that when it's over, because they just can't. But she's still there. Like I said, I haven't been there in 5 years. Not out of any reason. It had nothing to do with my spot. I just kind of grew out of it, honestly. The women who actively turn my head now in Prague, I was telling a few people this. Because in Prague, when you're walking around Prague, if you see a beautiful girl that way, dude, like you're just gonna see another beautiful one over there. So like that young, beautiful women are just normal. But what pulls my attention and makes me even turn my head to look at them twice is when it's an older woman with gray hair who took care of herself and is dressing, who is aware of how she's dressing to fit her age, but it still looks good, and she's clearly taking care of herself, like she's maybe even got her hair straightened or done. Like when an older woman has her hair done here and she's like well dressed, not like when women get gray, like because a lot of women just get gray hair and then they just give up. Like they just won't brush it anymore. You know what I mean? They just get fat. They just completely stop giving a fuck. Like, and I think it's so sad, especially here, because like women have this perception on what is beautiful, and then once that gets crossed, like they just submit to the world. They just say fuck it, you know. But what turns my head is when there's an older woman who dresses well and dresses appropriately, but still looks good and maintains herself. That woman will make me turn my head. After I walk past her, I'll take a second look at that. But young model women, it's everywhere. It's just nothing. It does nothing for me. Unless she has a good personality. Hey, Eddie, man, thanks for your regular advice. I took some of your advice. I have 3 students I teach makeup at. Nice, cool, man. I'm also thinking of starting my bachelor's in psychology. Go for it, man. Yeah, go for it. Your bachelor's in psychology. Women's primary instinct isn't honesty. Women do not come from honesty. Women aren't. Mr. Smith, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this too. I didn't notice it until I had my son. I noticed it strongly. He may have been about 1.5, and we took him to this indoor like playground. But this one area had this interactive touch screen where you could throw a ball at a screen and like, a balloon would pop on the screen or something like that. And first it was just like, me and my son and his mom, and we were like playing with it. And then, other boys came, and the boys were just being boys. They were like running, trying to get the ball, and they're faster. And then some girls of the same age and younger came in, right? And the girls just looked around, and they instinctively knew that they could not get a ball from the boys. Like they just knew it. And they were like 1, maybe 2, and younger, right? From these, in my opinion, I think what happens, because at first I was thinking women are naturally nicer when they're younger, but then I don't think that's the case. I think what happens is boys and girls are equally as horrible when they're babies. I don't think there's any real distinguishing character yet. When they're both babies, all babies are terrible. But once they get big enough to where they can start grabbing shit and running, girls learn. Okay, it's almost like how Sigmund Freud, whatever his name is, how he said that boys want to have sex with their own mother before they even realize it. Whether that's true or not, I can't really say, from personal opinion. But what I can say is this: when girls see boys in that same age group of like 1 to 2 years old and they got to compete for something, girls learn real fast on an instinctive level that we can't do nothing if they don't. We cannot do anything. I'm sorry. We can do nothing unless the boys let us. They learn that real early. I say by 2 years old max, they learn it. They see it. They see how fast the boys move, how aggressive they move, and the girls they just see it and they know like, yeah, we can't compete with that. So out of that comes, now maybe I should be nice. And then after those years, I think, yeah, the girls become more perceptive and actually listening and actually following orders. Because now it's like, yeah, because the world will beat my fucking ass if I don't. If it's not going to be my mother, my father, there's going to be some boy out there who's going to beat me up. And they learn that from 2 years old. Now, by the time they start hitting 10 or 11 years old, that's around the time period where they learn that saying that I think collectively they come to a baseline understanding that words can hurt mentally as much, if not more, than physically. Like you can mentally destroy someone by just calling them ugly and this and that, right? And that's where the shift happens, where boys don't use that as a weapon as much as just pure strength, whereas women will, because women evolved. They never had the pure strength, so they had to evolve in psychological warfare because they can't compete physically, and that's just a scientific fact. Okay. Now the next step is, once women, okay, first women learn how to manipulate at far earlier ages, because on an instinctive level they have to rely on that to survive. From their perspective, they have to rely on psychological warfare to survive. So what will get them what they want? If they just be nicer to who has what they want, then they'll get it. They have to learn, hey, can I have the ball, please? Well, I asked nicely. See, like the girls are worried about asking nicely. The boys have to be forced to be told to ask nice. Because the boy can just take it, right? But like I said, the women, they figured that manipulation out far earlier. While boys are out there running their toy trucks into the wall, girls are watching that and say, that boy is strong. I bet I can ask him to do this and this and this. They're learning that. Right? Now, like I said, around 10, they learn really how to verbally hurt people. Then on top of that, once they get a little older, now they learn that they can be pretty and use that to their advantage. But this whole time, they know that they physically cannot compete with men. They learn this. They know this before they know who they are in the world. They know this before they know their own name. That they can't physically compete with boys. It's so baked into them that they don't even remember when they figured it out. If anyone were to be honest. Yeah. So yeah, there's no such thing. There's no real such thing as honesty in a woman. It's emotions. Her woman's tool is emotions. It is emotions, which means how do I manipulate? How do I manipulate and evade emotions based off of psychology? There's very little. Honesty doesn't. No. Honesty is a male. When it comes to honesty, making rules, anything like this, these are male traits. But these are not woman traits. Men make rules. I was talking to a female friend of mine, the one up in the other town, up in a village, and this sounds like I'm making this up. We were talking on the phone, and and everything I'm saying is I'm not adding anything to this story. So even if she watches this, she can't get mad. I mean, she could probably get mad because I told a story on YouTube, but she can't say I lied about any part of it. Um, she went to New York City, and she sent me a bunch of pictures from New York City, places I had never even been to. In New York's huge, but I mean, so it's not saying much. But she took her and her daughter to New York City. I've known her daughter since she was small, and she's like 4. Because I've been here 10 years, so she's like 14 now or something like that. And so she goes in New York City. She bought me some Levi jeans, which to Americans is nothing, but to Europeans that's a big deal. She bought me some Levi jeans. Because I had to send her all the sizes of Levi's, and she has them now. She's gonna bring them down next month. And she said she bought her daughter an iPad, and she hooked up with some guy there, and a bunch of stuff. Anyway, long story short, when she got back to Czech Republic, she was telling me how she's low on money, and she was telling her daughter that they'll have to eat just like basic food because they don't have any money left. I'm like, well, why did you go to New York if you didn't have that much money? You know what I mean? A male perspective, actually surviving, but woman just seen, fun and didn't think about food with a child. Anyway, and guess what? This is what she told me. She had been wanting to do OnlyFans with me for a while now. She's been wanting me to. Her exact words was she wants me to pimp her out on OnlyFans, right? And because she said she would do it because she just doesn't have money, and she said she would do it. That's her exact words. She would do it. Now this next part is the part that women don't have any boundaries. Boundaries are what men make, and then women just play along with those boundaries when it works in their benefit. Now, it's hard for me to say this. Her daughter, when she told her daughter that they were low on money, her daughter replied, "Well, I'll film you doing OnlyFans." She wanted to hold the camera and record her mom have sex on camera. Right? I remember exactly where I was when we had this conversation. I was sitting in a coffee shop waiting for my son to get out of school. And I said, "Wait, so are you that?" So I asked her. I said, "Are you that type of person who can have sex with your daughter on camera?" Because I felt like that's where she was kind of trying to go with this, right? Because there's porn where like mothers and daughters would go, have sex on camera and be perfectly fine with it. Women don't have boundaries. Again, it's men who set the boundaries, and then women play along with those boundaries when it works in their favor. Women don't wreck toy trucks. Women will use men who wreck toy trucks when it works out in their favor. Right? If that makes sense. And she goes, so when I asked her that, she goes, "I'm still not entirely sure it was a no. I feel like she may have thought I might judge her, or maybe she was just hesitant. But then she said that her daughter is fully aware that she could sell pictures of her feet on OnlyFans and guys will pay her for it. She's like 14. She's fully aware of this." I've always, when these topics come up, at least on here, I've always said, look, see, when it comes to like sex trade and all this, see, the enemy is the enemy is not, very rarely is the enemy the men. The enemy is the women. Women are the one who keep that shit going. Men cannot do that. When it comes to these child sex rings and all that, that's not men sustaining that. That's women sustaining that. Men cannot show up to an elementary school. Men cannot show up to a child's doctor's office. And men cannot go out and actively recruit child sex rings. That's not Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein himself could not go up and just walk into an elementary school and start talking to 6-year-old bitches or whatever the fuck. I don't know how old the girls was, 13, whatever, underage. Jeff Epstein could not. Men cannot. I don't want to say do not, because some men will do it, but men cannot do this in any sustained format, because sooner or later some father is going to hear about it and kill that dude. Right? These things do not last for long periods if a man is doing it. The only reason why child sex, slavery, all this stuff exists and stays sustained long term is because there's a woman pushing that. Women can walk into a school and start recruiting young girls and having them over for sleepovers and inviting them out. And a woman can, a guy can do it, but it is not going to sustain very long. Sooner or later, guys have I'm not saying it can't happen, but guys have a far higher chance of getting caught and getting fucked up for it. Women can keep that shit going. Women can sustain it far longer. Now, women can get caught too. I'm not saying they're, untouchable, but women are the one who can do this in far higher quantities than men ever can. You're the only guy I heard say that there should be female laws. Yeah, there should be law books against women. There should be a male law book and a woman law book. 100%. Because up until now, women don't wreck toy trucks. Women manipulate men who will do the toy truck wrecking. That way she doesn't get in trouble. She doesn't get beat up. Epstein's right-hand man was a woman. Yeah. 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 It's the women doing that. Because every quality about women in society, will be based off of what men deem is right or wrong. If men got together, if the law books changed and said that you could have sex on the side of a highway or anywhere if you just felt like it, then women would follow. They would not stand up against it because they know they get beat up, so they'd have to just follow. Rights and morals are men. That's man territory, ultimately speaking, right? I even go so far. Remember that scene? I seen this skit. Let me see if I can find it. The green dress. The most beautiful woman. I'm probably spelling that wrong. Yeah, this thing. I'll probably get demonetized. Well, I might even monetize, but I'll probably get fucked up for this. So this scene right here. Now, the reality of this scene is this. If men decided this was the norm, then every woman would be looking like Precious. The only reason why women do not walk around and try to chase various ways to look like Precious is because they figured out that men don't like women who look like Precious. Like, generally speaking, like, that's not a man's top choice, right? Let's just be honest about it. And I'm not trying to make fun of her or anything, whatever. This is what it is.
She's easy to spot. She's wearing a green dress and she's absolutely gorgeous.
Oh no. She is gorgeous.
Got her?
See, now if woman generally figured out that she was gorgeous, then this woman would do everything she could to put on makeup, She would find you'd be seeing Instagram reels talking about something. Get fat quick with these easy steps. Eat 5 cinnamon rolls at exactly 4:30 a.m. Because that's when your metabolism, it just slows down just enough where you could pack on more weight right around the tire area right here. They'll be drawn on their body. They women around the world would collectively scientifically deduce every area of their body and how to maximize it to look like precious. They would do everything, anything they can think of. It sounds ridiculous because we can't actually carry out the experiment, but based off of woman psychology and what woman has historically always done throughout history, there's nothing disproven. There's nothing that would even begin to disprove it. If they found out that if woman found out, let me correct that. If woman found out that men that other women wanted precious. Let me wrap that up a little tighter. They'd do anything. Morals, laws, that's not a woman thing. That's a man thing. Women just follow it. Here's the sad part, too. It's not... See... Okay, women will just be weaker than men. Let's be real about that. Women will be weaker. Physically, now there's women who could whoop my ass. I'm not saying I could beat up every woman. What I'm trying to say is women know that inevitably she will be stomped out by a man. So she'll just sum up all men to be like that. Right? When in reality, she could beat up a fair amount of men in reality if she just got mad enough and, whatever, and zoned out at the right time. But here's the thing. It's the desire, in my opinion. I think it's woman's biggest weakness is comfort. If woman could strip out comfort, they'd run the world in record time. If woman could collectively strip out comfort, if woman could collectively strip out comfort, or strip out comfort or competing with higher women. Let's take for example, something like Temu. Some of them just on Temu, right? See the logic behind Temu. I'm gonna get this heart. I've been wanting a heart for a long time. Let's say something like Temu, right? Now, the task. The ability to undercut the market has a potential end goal of eventually owning the market because they'll just outsell the bidder, even though they're taking a cut, relatively speaking, a cut on the final product. They'll eventually take away sales from the more expensive people, and then and they'll go out of business. And Temu will eventually, at this rate, get better and better at what they do with lower prices, and eventually just wipe out Walmart or Radio Shack or whatever the fuck, right? They'll just wipe them out. But they had to go through that phase of being uncomfortable, not making as much as they probably could make right now for hopes of doing it later, right? That's not a woman tactic. Women tactics women don't move like that. Women move off of whatever's comfortable right now. Right? Is it comfortable right now? Then I'll do it. Okay. They ain't thinking, okay, unless it's a huge payoff for relatively low effort work, they're not trying to do that. At all. There's no such thing as a religious woman. There's no such thing as women who make laws. The woman exists to find comfort and to compete in drama. These are women's hotspots. Just like men's thing is to compete on merit. For example, whether it be video games, whether it be science, whether it be boxing, whatever. Men's thing is to compete. Is to get faster, stronger, better, regardless of comfort. Woman's thing is comfort. Is comfort number one, and drama somewhere on an equal playing field as that. Because I can tell you one thing right now, Temu is not run by a woman. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that. Something that takes long-term thinking on any level like that, and then to put it together on and logistics. And I can tell you right now, women, no. A woman's not even allowed in a Temu building, in a Temu corporate building at that point. Yeah, comfort, safety, and security. Yeah. What type of different laws would you make for men and women? Mostly, here's the thing. Mostly, the first laws I would make would be when it comes to divorce. This is the first thing I just thought about. The first thing I would do, because I got this from that one guy who got kind of famous, that divorce attorney. He got kind of famous off his rant one time. But how he said, when you're in a marriage, a man a man is expected to give his protection in some way, which nowadays is usually going to be money. And then when you divorce, a man is supposed to give his provision and resources, and a woman is supposed to give her kindness and companionship and sex, right? But then when divorce happens, a woman can still get your provisions and all this, but the courts never make her be nice to you or make her have sex with you, right? That'd be the first thing I'd change. If you're gonna do this, if you want to get a divorce and you want my money and resources, then you have to have sex with the man. That'd be the first things I change. Is make it equal. That's what it was all about. That was what it was about the whole time with every woman. Okay, don't pay attention to them Thai women and these Filipino women. Talk about some. Yeah, I just want a nice guy. Blah, blah, blah. All I need is $300 a month to live off of. Yes, she's. Was it the Filipina B or whatever? That's just men. Look, from Czech women, it doesn't matter who they are. Look. Every woman takes into account how much a guy earns or what he can potentially earn. Every woman. Okay, so even when you go to these poor countries, see, you as an American, they're gonna be nicer to you because you walking in there making more money than what they average in a month. So you're walking in there a top 10%er. So they're gonna be nice to you. It's not because they just submissive. Them look because these Czech women are still cunts to men who are beneath them. All right, it's just what it is. It's the nature of it. So don't fall for that passport bro shit of like, yeah, the women are still. I mean, in some ways they will be a little more feminine. I won't act like that's not a thing. In some ways they will be a little more feminine, but the game is still the same. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. Guys want physically attractive women who with good hygiene, and take care of their bodies, and women want men who can provide. And then everything else after that is negotiable. A woman's education level, generally speaking, a woman's education level, her potential for income, all that is negotiable. And for a man, being physically attractive and all that is negotiable. It depends on all the factors. But if you're missing those core issues, if the woman is fat and fucked up and and she got a bad attitude, then she's immediately worthless. And if a man is broke and has no potential of providing for himself, not to even mention others, then he's immediately off. And he shows no signs of it in any kind of way. Now, with the bad boy thing, like the bad boy, that's like a trading sign. Like it signals independence and strength, but in reality, they never really gonna do any of that. A lot of times, the bad boys aren't. Yeah, I'm out of here, man. It's 9:40. It's 9:45. I'll let y'all go. So, thanks for tuning in. And I don't think nobody donated. I don't think anybody donated. Cool. So thanks for if anybody liked or thanks to everybody who commented. Listen, you once said that Superman, Batman, Spider-Man bad when it comes to women. What do you think about the Flash, Cyclops, and Wolverine? Well, pretty much all of them, honestly. Joker is about the best one with Harley Quinn. Because out of all those women, out of all the women and superheroes, who was the guy who had the woman running back to him? The Joker. Joker had Harley Quinn jump out of acid to come. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Spider-Man never really. They're trying to turn Spider-Man into this like kind of decent dude with women, but it's just not working because that's just part of Spider-Man's original DNA. He always struggled with women. Batman could do it, but he just I think in reality a dude like Batman for real would be better. But like since they got to sell, like they got to sell it to people, they end up turning them into a chump on the back end. And it depends on the Superman. Like Henry Cavill's version of Superman, I think he was all right. And even the last dude, I don't know, he was a little soft too. And even though I did like the last Superman movie, a lot of people didn't like it, but I didn't. I mean, it was a little cheesy here or there, but I liked it. I still think Henry Cavill he's about the best one we got lately. Well, no, let me take that back. The Mexican dude, the Spanish dude, he was Superman in the TV show. I liked him I really did like him as Superman. I didn't think I would, but he did a really good job. I think he's like Spanish or something, or maybe half Spanish or something. But yeah. Here's this is generally how you'll tell how good somebody is with a woman in their life. And I'm gonna let you go after this. This is how you can generally tell. Is if the guy can kick her out. If he can kick her out, then he's made the cut. If the guy's always the one being kicked out or he's always the one being left, then he's got some problems. That's usually how you can tell. If you could look back at the history, and if the guy has no history of leaving the woman first, then he's gonna have problems. So he's kind of sitting around waiting for the woman to come back and this kind of thing. I'm not saying you're not going to want to wait for a woman, but that if the guy can actively leave a woman and carry on with his life, and keep growing and doing things, then he'll be okay. But the one who is like, their life entirely just stalled, there's nothing really grew after that. They're just, if anything, they just got worse. That's a bad. I'm not saying he can't fix it, but that's a bad position to be in. But yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go. So that's it. Y'all have a good night, and I'll catch you later, man. I'll catch you on the flippity flip. Peace out.